Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. We're going to uncover the gritty operational reality of moving from traditional tech consulting into an in-house fintech product management role. In consulting, your job is usually to make strategic recommendations. You toss the deck over the fence, right? But in-house, you own the execution, and you own the outcomes. Now, you might think execution just means designing sleek, user-friendly mobile interfaces that delight consumers. But as we're going to see, the landscape of financial technology requires a totally different mindset. It's a world where the balance sheet and the compliance auditor are just as important as the end user. We've actually structured this explainer as a bit of a survival guide for that exact transition. We'll be covering the fintech reality check, PM strategist versus PO tactician, navigating legacy tech systems, compliance and the balance sheet, and finally, the new success metrics. Section 1, the fintech reality check. To kick things off, we really need to dispense with the myths that a fintech PM is just out there building a faster, shinier banking app. When we look at the 2024 hiring breakdown, 62% of hiring is concentrated in B2B infrastructure. That is a massive chunk. The current hiring boom literally isn't being driven by consumer UX demand. It's driven by massive infrastructure modernization mandates. We're talking payment orchestration, KYC and AML tooling, reconciliation engines, the heavy lifting. Your job isn't always to fix a mobile UI. A lot of times, it's to help the banks survive the shift from batch to real-time settlement without bringing the whole system down. There's a stark contrast here. Traditional consumer tech PMs are basically a magnet for growth, right? They're constantly optimizing for engagement, session time, and reducing churn. But fintech PMs, they act more like a shield. You absolutely must focus on failure containment and systemic risk reduction. In fintech, your true north is increasing the audibility of every single transaction. You're quite literally optimizing for survivability. It's not just about reducing friction for the user, it's about reducing false positives and fraud detection, which, let's be honest, is the real bottleneck. Section 2, PM strategist versus PO tactician. Now, what's super interesting about this career transition is understanding exactly where you fit in the product hierarchy. Because I guarantee you, confusing these two roles leads to massive delivery failure. Think about it. As a former consultant, you're used to being the strategist, the product manager who owns the why, the commercial strategy, and the ROI. You're the one figuring out what needs to be built to actually drive growth. But if you get bogged down acting as the product owner, the tactician who's embedded with engineers, managing sprint backlogs and day-to-day execution, your strategic roadmap is going to stall out completely. Section 3, navigating legacy tech systems. Let's explore the massive technological anchor that's currently holding back traditional financial institutions. Ready for this? 40 years old. It is genuinely staggering to realize that at their core, incumbent banks are running on digital ledger technology developed over 4 decades ago. These systems, often built on ancient languages like COBOL, were originally designed to be just simple digitized ledgers. But over the decades, they've been force-fed increasingly complex use cases that they were never, ever designed to support in the first place. And the financial reality of that tech debt is pretty brutal. The difference is stark. A modern neobank's cost to maintain their tech stack per customer is around £20. But an incumbent bank, that cost towers at £150. The vast majority of an incumbent's bloated IT budget isn't funding genuine innovation. It's literally just keeping the lights on for that 40-year-old estate. This massive pound per pixel cost is exactly the headwind you're fighting against when you're trying to ship new features. So as a consultant, it's super easy to pitch a lifeboat strategy in a slick slide deck. The idea of let's just build a shiny new system alongside the old one and seamlessly migrate customers over. But as an in-house PM, you own the edge cases. Over 40 years, banks accumulate all this undocumented logic buried deep inside the legacy code. If you move customers to that lifeboat and it cracks, the regulatory fallout is an absolute catastrophe. Replacing these systems isn't just a simple IT upgrade. It's a massive risk management exercise fraught with terrifying known unknowns. Section 4, compliance and the balance sheet. This brings us to probably the most critical mindset shift for a new fintech PM. Listen closely. Compliance is not a roadblock. It is the product. Imagine you ship a shiny new feature that yields a 37% increase in savings opt-ins. In consumer tech, you're popping champagne and getting promoted. In fintech, if internal audit flags that feature as a potential UDAP violation, it gets rolled back 2 weeks later, and your feature is dead in the water. That PM in the story ran afoul of UDA, which stands for Unfair, Deceptive, or Abusive Acts or Practices. It's a strict regulatory standard. If you don't deeply understand terms like this, your flashy new feature is basically just a regulatory fine waiting to happen. You absolutely cannot frame a feature as simply delighting users if you're inadvertently increasing the bank's fraud surface area or somehow deceiving a customer about fees. In consulting, your primary stakeholder is usually just the executive sponsor who hired you. But in-house, you do not unilaterally own the roadmap. You have to steward it through these incredibly powerful control layers. Legal, risk, audit, finance, and compliance, these are your essential partners now. Your job as a fintech PM is to be the great translator between legal's mandate for zero exposure and engineering's reality of, hey, we need 6 months to build that. I cannot stress this enough. Hiring managers will absolutely kill your offer if you view a money transfer purely as a user journey rather than a strict financial operation. We've seen debriefs where candidates with flawless, incredible resumes from top consumer tech companies get flat out rejected. Why? Because they don't understand the balance sheet. If you propose a cool new rewards program but can't explain how the liability accruals actually affect the company's cash flow, you fail the interview. Simple as that. When you map out a transaction workflow, you realize the intense level of operational fluency required here. You have to be able to map a simple user tap on their smartphone all the way down to its balance sheet settlement. It starts with the user action, moves into a hold state, requires a reserve allocation, maybe triggers an FX or foreign exchange event, and finally settles as a general ledger entry. You have to deeply understand how things like float, hold periods, and settlement cycles actually create or destroy unit economics for your business. Section 5. The new success metrics. So, how do we actually measure success in this highly constrained, heavily regulated environment? I mean, if you can't rely on daily active users, session times, or net promoter scores to prove your worth, what metrics actually get you promoted in fintech? Well, your new scorecards look a lot like this. Instead of chasing smiley faces for NPS or obsessing over app downloads, you're measured by your audit pass rates. Instead of just tracking sprint velocity, you're judged on exception rate reduction. You're hyper-focused on things like reducing KYC false positives and minimizing payout latency. Verifiable risk reduction and operational debt cleanup, those are the true marks of a senior fintech product manager. And this fundamentally shifts your unit economics. In fintech, your customer acquisition cost isn't just your marketing spend. That $5 to $25, that represents the heavy know your customer and anti-money laundering compliance costs per user. If a massive percentage of your signups fail the KYC funnel, your true cost per funded customer absolutely skyrockets. You have to live and breathe these realities. And because of the immense risk involved here, earning the trust to actually deploy these features takes serious time. The timeline gap is pretty eye-opening. An internal PM moving to a regulated feature takes about 6 months to ship, but an external hire, you're looking at 14 to 16 months. And it's not because you lack product skills, it's because of trust latency. You literally have to earn your access to compliance reviews and audit logs before they'll ever let you touch the money. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to consider for your career transition. Are you ready to stop making recommendations and start actually owning the balance sheet, or will the legacy mainframe master you? Transitioning from consulting to fintech product management is an incredible opportunity, for sure, but only if you're willing to learn the language of risk and settlement just as fluently as you know UX and growth. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this survival guide helps you navigate your next big career leap.